Hi, Jeff. Can you hear me? Your sound.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay,
How are
good.
you? That's very
I'm
pretty.
doing good.
You did a good job. Hi, everyone. Thank you
Uh,
for joining Yo Soy Neighborhoods Fresno. Today's April 23rd, 2020. And it sounds like our leaders are getting ready to give us the okay to get back into the work mode. I'm hoping everyone's getting cabin fever. Beyond that, I'm sure. Today we have Mr. Jeff Ahronian. Uh, he he gave us a little talk about the Armenian Genocide and the celebrations that we were having last year here in Fresno. And I think due to this 19 virus, yeah, everything's been kind of postponed. How you doing today, Jeff? I see you have a good background there.
yeah, I'm sitting. I'm sitting outside because we're working from home remotely. So it's such a beautiful day. The weather's starting to get really nice here.
Oh,
So I'm taking advantage of being outside.
right. It is. I was just outside a minute ago. I just came in, so I hear.
Uh,
Yeah,
uh,
it is. It's going to be. It looks like might be a hot summer, huh?
going to be in the 90s next week, so it's going to be going to get hot really fast.
Right. So now, how's your brother doing?
He's doing good. Yeah, we want to get back to work. That's the main thing. We're
Right.
getting stressed.
Well, he's in the stockbroking industry.
Yeah, we both are. We both work together with our dad.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we can do a little interview on that subject because people are very worried about their investments right now, aren't they?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't talk about that. We have very strict compliance. They wouldn't let me talk about that.
Oh, okay. Generalities or
I can't touch.
can't
That's
touch.
the nature of our industry now. We can't talk about anything.
Oh boy, that's sad.
Yeah.
All of us out here, we think we know, but we don't know, and you're in the trenches. So
Yeah.
darn. Oh well, I guess we could just say check with Jeff.
They can call me up anytime. One-on-one, I could, but I can't do video. I
Gotcha.
can't video.
Okay. Well, give them your phone number to your office so in case they have questions, at least they can reach out to you.
431-5900.
Okay, super. All right. So now this year, I know last year we have that video and we're rerunning that on the CMAC TV channel. And I'll be putting a page up. I think it's actually tomorrow, the 24th is usually the celebration date.
Right. Yeah, that would be a good day to run it, actually. That'd be very appropriate.
Super. Okay. Well, we'll give it a shot. Now, is Fresno State doing anything for you at all?
No, everything got canceled this year, unfortunately, but there usually is a really big event at Fresno State with speakers and a lot of interesting material that Professor Barlow Dermagerdician puts together, and that they're not able to do it this year. So we worked on a really nice exhibit at the Fresno County Historical Museum, which I came on your show last year and talked about. And unfortunately, the museum is closed right now, so we're not able to access that as well. But there's a lot of information on the internet, and there's different things you can look up to read about it or learn more about it.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to read up on that, they would just put Armenian Genocide or how?
Yeah, there's lots of information.
Okay, so I know last year, go ahead.
Well, uh, I'm really excited about our exhibit, obviously, because we have a whole section that's on the exhibit wall at the museum that talks about this. And there's a lot of photos and historical information in there. So I would encourage everyone, once the Fresno Fair starts up again in October, which I don't anticipate that not happening. I think that's going to happen. It's a free museum during the fair. So I just, everyone needs to go and walk through it and check it out. There's a lot of cultural things in there and historical artifacts from Fresno. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Armenians in Fresno County. I think that's important. We hear about the genocide. Well, the genocide, that started in 1915, April 24th is when they say is the start of the Armenian Genocide. That's when they rounded up a lot of the intellectuals and private business owners and that kind of thing, people over in Constantinople, which is now Istanbul, Turkey, rounded up and killed them. The Turks did that, the Turkish government. But really, before that, there was a lot of massacres going on in the regions of the Ottoman Empire, in the villages and more of the rural areas. So really, you had waves of people leaving those, Armenians were leaving those areas in the 1880s, starting in the 1880s and coming to America and France and other parts of the world. My family, all four sets of my grandparents, they left in the 1890s when they came to America. So they really were leaving, they left before the official genocide happened. Now the genocide happened from 1915 to all the way to the end of World War I up until 1923. And there was over 1.5 million Armenians that were killed during that period. But they were getting slaughtered and massacred before that. So this is there's a long history of that in that area of the world. So I feel really fortunate that to have come to America and to be living here now, because we have so many great things here, freedoms and liberties, and if we had stayed there, who knows what would have happened. So our exhibit, really, we want to focus on the early history of Fresno County. It's a Fresno County museum, so everything has to be related to Fresno County. So we were trying to show in the exhibit why people were leaving that part of the country, that part of the world, where they went. So a lot of them came to Fresno, and some of the early things that they started. So we have monuments highlighted there, churches, we have businesses, agriculture. I'm working on some stuff right now to add to the exhibit on agriculture, because that was what everyone kind of did back then in the early days. They were in agriculture and business.
Right.
So we're working on some additions to it.
So what we saw last year, it's progressed into additional items explaining the relationship with the Armenian people and Fresno itself.
Trying to get it finalized, trying to add a few things here and there. Mm-hmm. So hopefully we'll get it done. And the great thing about this exhibit, it was all privately funded. We went out, my brother and I raised the money in the community. Everyone that we talked to pretty much wanted to help out. So we had a really good response. And that's why we care so much about it, because it's all privately funded. There's a lot of people that helped out, that their families featured on the exhibit itself. Mm-hmm. We have pictures going back to the early 1900s. So there's a lot of great information there. I just encourage everyone to go see it.
So I have a question. You said 4 sets of parents. So grandparents, they came directly from Armenia here, or did they land back east first and gravitated here?
That's a good question. That's a good question. Some came directly here, actually, and a couple. One grandfather went to Worcester, Massachusetts, and there was a big Armenian population there in the 1880s and 90s. And then another grandfather went to Paterson, New Jersey, believe it or not. Then they ended up coming out west, both sets. Fowler and Sanger is where they settled.
It's interesting, though, that Fresno, the Central Valley, came up on the radar, I would imagine, because Fresno, this area was just getting settled in the 70s and, well, 69, 70s, you know, the gold rush period brought a lot of people in, the Chinese and whatnot, to help build those flumes up to move the gold. So how did the Armenian people, how did Fresno, Central California come up on their radar?
Well, this is part of what we're going to add to the exhibit. So in the first Armenians that came here came around 1880. And they came and settled. I think they heard about it from a relative or something. I don't know how they exactly ended up here, but they were the Seropian brothers. There was a set of brothers that came here, and they were on the East Coast first, and they came over and they wanted to be business owners, so they got into farming. And then they wrote back and told their relatives about it, and it's like Armenia. It's the similar climate. There's not a lot of people here. You can get into farming pretty cheaply. Even back then, you could be your own boss. They didn't speak English, so it couldn't really get hired through different kinds of jobs. So a group of them started coming over, and they came from a place called Marzavan, and they started settling here, and it's kind of by word of mouth, more and more started coming over.
Okay, so when you say Central California has a lot of similarities to Armenia, so they have the mountains and this, like the Sierra Nevadas, similar to that as well?
Well, there are. I've never been there, but there are the most popular mountain, at least one of them in the world, is Mount Ararat, and that's in Armenia. Well, now it's technically in Turkey, but that's our mountain, Ararat. That's where Noah's Ark settled, is supposedly on top of that mountain range. But the climate is similar, and you could grow things and you could farm. And I think there's no humidity, kind of like a dry climate like we have here. So, and a lot of these guys weren't really farmers when they got here. Like these Seropian brothers, I think they were just merchants. And then they got here and there wasn't anything else to really do except farming. So that's how they kind of got into it. And some of the first crops, obviously, figs, raisins, and melons. So figs and raisins, that's pretty easy because you didn't really have to get rid of them fast. You know, once you dried the grape, made it into a raisin, or made a fig and dried it, or whatever you did with it, you could store them for a while because we didn't have refrigeration. We didn't have, I guess we had trains, but we were just starting to transport things. So those are obvious crops that would be the first things you'd have around here in the valley.
So I have a question. I noticed when I came home and started milling around and kind of looking at the landmarks, Shaw Avenue used to be loaded with figs. So yeah. Where are the figs now? Because all of those areas are completely wiped out.
Yeah, they still, I don't know what the numbers are now on figs in this area, but I know they still have them. People still have fig tree. If you just walk around town, you run into a fig tree I mean, I see them all the time. Just, and they don't need much water to maintain themselves, so that they can last a long time.
Okay.
Well, actually, where Fig Garden Village is, those were figs, and where Manchester Mall is, that was a whole fig area. So a lot of the area were fig orchards. One of the largest fig grower in the world was here.
Really?
His name is Armenia. So they were pretty famous. This is around 1918. They owned the most fig acreage in the whole country, supposedly.
Really?
So we have pictures of him on the exhibit. We have a story on the exhibit.
Oh, that should be interesting to did your brother do another video?
We should, actually. I like those videos. I can do another one for you.
Yeah, I think that's interesting because people, well, maybe now after this virus thing, we're learning to settle down and take life in stride instead of being in a rush. Maybe they're going to take a little time to read now. I'm hoping. But it was very interesting last year. We're going to rerun that video, and it was very nice. You did an excellent job.
No.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the compliment.
Yes. So I would encourage everyone here in the local area to please go and take a look at the exhibit. And as you said earlier, we probably will have the fair, hopefully. That's one of the bigger events around the city. And please, that museum has so much information, and it's really, they're really focusing on bringing out the different groups of people that have come here to settle down and bring their, I mean, having a variety of backgrounds and international followings, it really gives a richness to this area, not only for the people, but the historical value that the people bring with this, with their stories. Now, can you kind of give us an idea, some of those items that were canceled for this year, do you think you'll be able to bring them back up, or you're just going to wait till next year, or?
I would think they'd probably wait because everything's done on April 24th, and things aren't going to be open on April 24th. So even the churches have gone digital or online with their services every week. I know all the local churches are doing virtual church. So we don't want to do it on a different day. April 24th is when it's always been. And I mean, this has been over 105 years. This is the 105th year. And I don't think they've ever had to cancel it for any reason. And we've had World War I and World War II, and we've had all these things happen. So this is kind of a shock to the whole system. And
everybody,
even church has been canceled, and that's very important to us because we're the first nation to adopt Christianity as our religion.
Right. And you have a wonderful church here. I have a funny question. Since I've been back, we used to have all the sections downtown, Armenia, Little Italy, and all of that. What happened with that?
You mean the areas where people lived? Well, where the red brick church is, that's Holy Trinity Church. And that whole area, and that's right on Ventura and M Street, right by the Sound Arena. So that whole area was Armenian people lived there when they settled there. And we have a map, actually. Someone drew up a map from memory where everyone lived in the area. And it's a huge area. I don't know how this guy remembered where everybody lived, but he put all their names on this map. It's very interesting. That's something we have on the board. But as you started developing the city, I mean, they'd sell off the houses and they'd develop it and put a building. And so that's kind of what happened down there. I mean, I think things progressed where you were developing the center of the city, so people were moving out more to the suburbs, and that happened. Wow. But for a while, I mean, you couldn't even, if you're Armenian, you couldn't even buy property in certain areas in Fresno County. In fact, when my parents lived in Sunnyside, the original deed had a restriction in there, could not sell it to people of Armenian ancestry. That was in the deed. Really? In covenant and restriction. So there's a lot of discrimination back. A lot of our ancestors had to change their last names because they couldn't get jobs and they're in business. My grandfather was in business. He had to change his name to make it more Americanized. So his last name was Tsujian. It became Tucson. He was in business, and this happened in 1905. This happened a long time ago. So
right.
People tend to get that kind of stuff, but that was pretty prevalent. Right.
I think we had a little episode about the redlining districts. I mean, really, it affected all of us, the Mexican people, the African American, and we had Japanese. We didn't have Chinese, Hmong, or any of those folks yet. But our core population were Armenian, Portuguese, Mexican, Japanese. Chime in anytime if I forget. Caucasian. That was most.
Interesting though that in that deed restriction, it did not say Mexican. The blacks were in there, and Armenians, and I think Japanese were listed, but I don't think Mexicans were prevalent among people coming here back then. That's probably why they weren't in there, but they were races singled out.
They were poor then, and they're poor now, so they didn't probably figured they didn't have any money to buy anything. They probably listed women, didn't they?
No, not women.
No, okay. Yeah.
I think we have a copy of that somewhere. And mostly it had to do with jealousy. I mean, people were just jealous of other people, so that's why they do things like that.
Well, if you find it, I would put it in a frame and put it up there to show. That's something that people have forgotten.
Yeah.
It's part of history. I don't think. They had this discussion about knocking all those monuments down in the South, and my opinion was, leave it there because that's a remembrance of where we were and how much we've progressed since then. Our ideals and opinions and the inclusiveness of the general population, that we're all here. We're all foreigners from somewhere. So to adopt just a nomenclature that it does not attack anyone is the best resolve for everyone.
Well, you have to use it to your advantage. I mean, when they did that, you wanted to achieve something. You wanted to be successful. So just to show them, hey, I could be successful. I just work hard at it, and I have a good work ethic. I'm going to show you guys what I can do.
Right. And that, what? It's really interesting that one of the things, and you probably found this too, in these professional fields, they want people to have a very high work ethic and a lot of determination, because I think some people feel like or are under the impression if you're a professional, you're not working as hard, but the expectation is that you work harder.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's really, I would say that young folks that are in this area, if they're out there working early, they're picking up on that work ethic and determination, and those are all skills that are applied to their future job, and they should be very proud that they're learning at this young age.
Definitely. Best job, but best thing you can do is have experience, even if they're menial jobs. So you move up the ladder and you learn what it takes to have a good work ethic. I was always taught that from my parents growing up.
Right, and that's very, very important. I think that we've lost a little bit of it, but hopefully with all these, I see a silver lining somewhere in all of this virus situation. Yeah, I don't know what you've noticed, but some of the things I've noticed is just slowing down, and people, when you walk, they'll say hello. Before, people weren't doing that. So have you noticed some pluses?
Yeah, I have a little bit of that. You're right. Walking around where I live, there's people on our street now, like every day, just out and about, getting antsy. All the kids are out there. They're not going to school, but the neighbors are talking to each other, and I think that's a good thing.
Right. It's all good. And then the other pluses that I see is that really our animals, the deer and all of the wolves, everything, all the animals are coming out and they're running around and they're like, we're free. We've got those pesky humans back in the corner.
Oh, don't tell me that. I get animals all the time at my house.
Hills a little.
What was that?
I said, are you up in the hills a little bit, the foothills?
Close to the bluffs.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well,
I don't know what comes around at night, but there's always, it's either raccoon or fox, or last night I saw a possum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I lived in Southern California for 32 years, and although Pasadena is a developed city, and those associated, Altadena and those associated cities, they get lions there. And bears. So yeah, every once in a while. So, but hey, just don't leave your dog or cat out.
No.
Well, so now I know that last year something happened after we had our interview. I think that there was kind of like a little request to recognize this as a formal genocide. Can you kind of walk us through that?
Well, that the House and the Senate passed a formal recognition of the genocide, and it didn't really do much, to be honest. But it's, I think, everyone knows there was genocide. If you don't know there was a genocide, then you're just ignorant to the facts. But they've been trying every now and then to pass something like this. So they passed it last year. And I don't know if it has an effect on anything, but a lot of countries obviously recognize, a lot of it's political. So I think there was some politics that went into recognizing it last year, but it's a touchy subject. People just have to understand that it happened and just keep talking about it. And Turkey they have their reasons for denying it, I guess. They're worried about being sued by, for liability, and that's a whole nother subject matter.
Right. So I have a question now. You said is there any way to, okay, it sounds like Turkey's not agreeable, so I'm just in my mind going, is there any way to reclaim like the mountain in certain regions that are important, historical, factual regions?
I'm not the expert on this guy. You should talk to Professor Dermugger-Deachin. He would be the guy to talk to.
Oh, okay.
Professor Barland or Muggeridge. But
Okay.
I don't want to get into any political
No,
discussion.
I wasn't thinking politics. I was just thinking, for the people. I mean, the people are part of the politics are the ones that we elect into position, and they want to argue all that. And some of it is not even worth arguing about, but I'm more in my mind for the people, that's their land that they're attached to. I mean, the people don't say anything or.
Well, we were from a region that it's just that there's nothing there anymore. I mean, all the different villages there's nothing there. You can't even, they're in Turkey now. You can't even go there. They won't let Armenians, you got to sneak in there if you want to see it.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
after the wars, they carved up that area after World War I or World War II, and they landlocked country of Armenia. So we have a map showing what it used to be. It was a huge area, and then based on all these different wars that have happened, and now it's a little area, so it's not the same.
Oh.
It's not country.
Okay, so they kind of chunked it up as the wars, and they kind of claimed their land as their land, part of their warring land.
Right. Yeah. But people were either killed or they moved out. And we were fortunate. We moved out. But millions of people were killed. And there were big cities back then, 200,000, 300,000. There was no one left after this.
Right.
So for it to deny that this happened, there's no, you can't respect that opinion. They're not looking at the facts.
Mm-hmm. Like you said, it's political. So it's kind of like what Syria's going through. I mean, those people have been running for their life.
Yeah, right. I mean, what happened to the Jews in the Holocaust, very similar. Mm-hmm. But that was a little bit later, so there's more videos of it and pictures and more information out there. But this happened 1890s, mm-hmm. 1915. There's not a lot of documentation.
Right.
For video as far as filming and, but we have family members who went through it. They wrote diaries and they have firsthand accounts. Mm-hmm. And there are pictures of heads that have been chopped off and skewered. I mean, just gruesome, horrific things that they're barbarians, really.
Wow. I just saw something the other day, not too long ago, that they're doing with the Jewish group. Maybe this is a suggestion for your elders, since you still have a few around that could tell the story, relay the information. They're using they're creating, you heard of AEs, where they fashion a hologram to look exactly like the person that's speaking. And what they're doing is for 1 week, they take that elder and they put him in a circular green room, is what I want to say, to create the hologram, and they all the way around that individual, and they pick up their gestures and how they speak. They even have one fella singing a song, and he passed on about a year ago, but they've been on this production now for 5 or 6 years. If I think of the name of the title of it, I'll let you know.
Okay, yeah. There's going to be, I just thought of something, on April 26th, Sunday, on PBS, local PBS, there's going to be a movie that they're airing. And they've changed the time a couple times, but I got an email today about it. It's supposed to be 3 p.m. this Sunday, and it's called What Will Become of Us. It's a new documentary. Actually, there's one on at 1 o'clock. So you can set your recorder. if you have one, and you could take these two specials on PBS on Sunday, 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock. One of them is Valley of Hope. It was made locally. That's pretty good. I've seen that one. Then there's a new one on at 3. I haven't seen that one yet, but if someone wants to learn more about this, those would probably be two good things to watch.
Oh, okay. That sounds exciting. That would be nice. I mean, it's interesting how we've evolved. I mean, I really feel like that when I think of the name of that program, they're doing interviews. That might be really great for your group because there are not very many left, right? Of the elders in your group.
Yeah, maybe, no, not too many.
Yeah, and it might be something nice for historical purposes later on if they develop that, because each generation develops their own new gestures. We don't approach things in the same way. That's just part of assimilating to the area,
Right.
living, and I think it might be a good thing for your group. I'm trying to think of their, like the Japanese, that might be a good group too, that could use this as well. I'll mention that to Kathy because there's a lot of history here from just the folks, talking to the folks, and you learn so much. But anyway, well, we're trying to keep you in the mix, and
Yeah, have me.
yeah. So why don't you give your contact information again?
Well, you could look me up on Facebook. We have a lot of information on there about all this, and people can see some photos and videos are up there, and it's open. Mm-hmm. So that's probably the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay, just with your name, or do we look
for
name? Jeff Ahronian, right? Yeah. Can you spell your last name for everybody?
Ahronian.
Okay, everyone. So in celebration of the Armenian Genocide and those and our very special group here that we recognize, and they brought so much riches to our valley. Thank you for choosing Fresno, Central California. We are bringing this to you, and we will rerun last year's video as well. I've already set that up with CMAC. So just go to cmac.tv if anyone would like to review that. And then, of course, as Jeff said, there will be some programming on PBS at 3 o'clock on Sunday. Did I get it right?
Yeah, it sounded like, well, you're kind of breaking up, but it sounded like it.
Okay. Well, it's been nice, and every time I get to talk to you, we learn a little more.
All right, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining in, and I'm sure that at everyone's Armenian home, they're probably going to do something, a little prayer tomorrow, or have some festive going-ons at the home. And then once we get going again, hopefully we'll have something at church. I go to that lunch every once in a while.
Oh, downtown?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, yes.
Great.
Yes, okay. Well, you take care and enjoy the rest of your day. It looks like a beautiful view from your point.
Yeah. No, it's hot. I'm getting hot out here, sweating.
You're out of huh? All right. Thank you so much, Jeff.
All right. Nice seeing you.
Yeah. Appreciate your time. You take care. Say hi to your brother.
All right. Take care, Edna.
All righty. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. You just hit the end meeting thing.
Oh, okay. Never done this before.
It's a good experience, right? Now you're going to do it. You'll practice a few more and you'll be.
Yeah, I think I'll have another meeting coming up. Okay, we'll see you.
All righty. Take care. Bye. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Yo Soy Neighborhoods Fresno. And a little bit later on, we're going to have Martha Joe. And she's going to talk about wills, health directives, and trusts. So we'll talk to you a little bit later. Take care. Keep your chin up. We're going to get through this. We're almost done.